Enlightenment in comparative perspective. Buddhism and other religions. Introduction. The concept of enlightenment lies at the heart of the world's spiritual and philosophical traditions. While the language, metaphors, and practices differ widely, nearly every major religion addresses the human longing for ultimate truth, liberation from suffering, and union with the divine or the cosmos. In Buddhism, enlightenment Bodhi represents the awakening to the true nature of reality, characterized by wisdom, Prajik, compassion, Karu, and the cessation of suffering, Nirvbe. Other religions also speak of transformative realizations, whether in the form of mystical union, salvation, gnosis, or liberation. This essay explores the similarities and differences between Buddhist enlightenment and the corresponding concepts in Hinduism, Christianity, Islam, particularly Sufi, Taoism, and Western mysticism. It seeks to highlight both the shared human quest for transcendence and the unique doctrinal frameworks that shape each tradition. By comparing these traditions, we can better understand how enlightenment functions as both a universal human aspiration and a culturally conditioned path. Enlightenment. In Buddhism, Buddhism identifies enlightenment as the direct realization of impermanence, anicca, non-self, anat, and emptiness, niyat. It is not merely intellectual knowledge, but an existential transformation that dissolves ignorance, avidib, and the grasping that produces suffering. The Buddha's awakening under the Bodhi tree serves as the archetype, a profound shift in perception leading to liberation from the cycle of birth and death. Sara Ki, features of Buddhist enlightenment. Non-theistic realization. Unlike many religions, Buddhism does not center on union with a creator God, but on direct insight into the nature of reality. Cessation of craving. Path enlightenment frees one from attachments and aversions. Ethical transformation, wisdom and compassion become inseparable, guiding one's conduct in the world. Gradual or sudden, different schools emphasize different paths. Theravada highlights gradual cultivation through the Eightfold Path, while Zen speaks of sudden awakening, opening parenthesis, sator, I closing parenthesis, ii. Enlightenment in Hinduism. Hinduism offers multiple models of ultimate liberation, known as moksha, which parallels Buddhist nirvana in many respects, but arises from a distinct metaphysical foundation. Marka refers to freedom from samsara through the realization of the self-Titman as one with ultimate reality, Brahman. Key parallels and contrasts. Advaita Vedanta. Enlightenment is the realization that one's true self, Titman, is identical with Brahman, the ultimate non-dual reality. This contrasts with Buddhism's denial of a permanent self. Bhakti traditions. Liberation is framed as loving union with a personal deity such as Krishna or Shiva, emphasizing devotion rather than pure knowledge. Yoga and meditation. Similar to Buddhist practices, Hindu traditions employ meditation, ethical discipline, and renunciation to cultivate insight, whereas Buddhism negates a permanent self. Hinduism often affirms it, leading to a major philosophical divergence, even though both traditions seek liberation from suffering and rebirth. 3. Enlightenment in Christianity. Christianity speaks less of enlightenment in the Buddhist sense and more of salvation, grace, and union with God. However, within Christian mysticism, particularly among figures such as Meister Eckhart, Teresa of Avila, and John of the Cross, there is a deep experiential dimension comparable to Buddhist awakening. Key aspects. Union with God. Mystics describe enlightenment as experiencing oneness with God beyond the dualities of self and other. Grace over effort, unlike the Buddhist. Emphasis on self-cultivation. Christianity stresses divine grace as the decisive factor in transformation. Transformation of love, just as enlightenment manifests as compassion in Buddhism. Christian enlightenment manifests as selfless love modeled on Christ. Christian mysticism converges with Buddhism in its emphasis on inner transformation and transcendence of ego, but diverges in its fundamentally theistic framework. 4. Enlightenment in Islam. The Sufi path. Islam's mainstream theology emphasizes submission to God all, but within Sufism, the mystical dimension of Islam, enlightenment is sought through direct experiential knowledge of the divine, called mifa. Features of Sufi enlightenment. Fan and back. The Sufi speaks of fan, the annihilation of the ego, followed by back, living in God. This has striking resonance with Buddhism's no-self, though it culminates in union with a personal God rather than realization of emptiness. Love as the path. Sufi poets like Rumi describe enlightenment as the burning away of self in the fire of divine love. Spiritual practice. Dhikr, remembrance of God, meditation, music, and dance, for example. Whirling dervishes are used to transcend ordinary consciousness. Sufi enlightenment thus combines elements of self-dissolution and divine union, echoing both Buddhist emptiness and Christian mystical love. V. Enlightenment in Taoism. Rooted in the teachings of Laozi and Zhuangzi, emphasizes harmony with the Tao, the way, the ineffable source of all existence. Taoist enlightenment is not about escaping samsara, but about living in spontaneous alignment with the natural flow. Key elements. Wu Wei, non-action, enlightenment, manifests as effortless action in harmony with the Tao, naturalness. Xiren, like Zen Buddhism, Taoism prizes spontaneity and non-attachment. Mystical union. Taoist sages dissolve the boundaries of self, experiencing the universe as a seamless whole. The Taoist vision converges with Mahayana Buddhism in its emphasis on emptiness, spontaneity, and non-duality, though framed through natural rather than soteriological metaphors. Via enlightenment in Western philosophy and mysticism. Western traditions, outside Christianity, also reflect enlightenment-like ideas. Greek philosophy. Plato's allegory of the cave resembles awakening from ignorance to truth. Stoicism. Liberation from destructive passions through rational understanding mirrors Buddhist detachment. Modern philosophy. Existentialists like Heidegger and phenomenologists like Husserl sought direct experience of being, resonating with Buddhist mindfulness and presence. These traditions, however, lack the comprehensive soteriological system found in Buddhism. VII. Similarities across traditions, despite doctrinal differences. Several common threads unite these visions of enlightenment. Dissolution of ego, whether described as no-self, fan, kenosis, or humility before the Tao. The transcendence of ego lies at the heart of enlightenment. Ethical transformation, genuine realization, manifests as compassion, love, or service to others. Transcendence of duality. Enlightenment often involves going beyond the opposites of life and death, self and other, sacred and profane. Experiential depth, intellectual knowledge, is insufficient. Enlightenment is transformative experience. 8. Differences across traditions. At the same time, profound differences remain. Theistic versus non-theistic. Buddhism is unique in framing enlightenment, without reference to a creator God, focusing instead on insight into dependent origination and emptiness. Self versus non-self. Hinduism affirms the eternal Atman, while Buddhism denies it. Grace versus self-effort. Christianity emphasizes grace, Buddhism emphasizes practice. Sufism integrates both. Goal of liberation for Buddhists, enlightenment, is release from SASRAR. For Taoists, it is harmony with nature. For Christians and Sufis, it is union with God, IX. Toward a global understanding of enlightenment in today's globalized world. Cross-traditional dialogues on enlightenment are more possible than ever. Comparative study helps us see both the universal dimensions of spiritual awakening and the cultural particularities that shape its expression. A Buddhist can learn from the devotional depth of Sufism, a Christian from the meditative precision of Zen, a Hindu from the Taoist embrace of spontaneity. Such dialogue enriches rather than dilutes one's path. Conclusion. Enlightenment, whether called Bodhi, Marka, salvation, Fan, union with God, or harmony with the Tao, represents the deepest aspiration of the human spirit. Buddhism contributes a unique, non-theistic perspective, emphasizing emptiness, impermanence, and compassion. Hinduism provides a vision of unity with Brahman. Christianity and Islam speak of divine love and grace. Taoism highlights harmony with the natural way. Western philosophy offers rational and existential frameworks, while their doctrines diverge. These traditions share a profound conviction that human beings can transcend ignorance and suffering, awakening to a deeper truth that transforms life into wisdom, love, and freedom. Enlightenment, in this comparative light, is both many and one, many in its expressions, one in its universal call to transcendence.